the good news is that Senator Rubio helped lead to get legislation in place when he was still Senator Rubio to make it that no president could just arbitrarily walk away from NATO.
And we are live. We are here to talk about what's going on in Iran first and foremost, and as it relates to the rest of the world, specifically Europe and NATO. As most of you who follow us are aware and follow the news at all, there's been a 2-week ceasefire declared between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Iran claims that it's already been violated because Israel's refused to accept the terms of the ceasefire, and in fact has continued to bomb Lebanon, Beirut in particular. And I just want to post this. Ben and I were just talking about this off air. These are the 10 points that were originally presented by Iran. We don't know, meaning we, the media or the public, don't know exactly what was put forth to the White House and Israel, how many, if any, of these were accepted. But if even a majority or half of these were accepted, this to me, and Ben, you can disagree with me or correct me, this to me is not a victory for the United States. This is a total loss. This is a tail between your legs kind of a thing. What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot that we don't actually know. The actual whatever 10 points were presented by the Iranians that the president said were a good basis for the discussion. There's disagreement over whether or not Lebanon was included in the ceasefire. And what we're seeing is a result of a White House that has lost credibility in its messaging, and also the result of not having professional diplomats actually involved in these negotiations. And so these are the kind of mistakes that come out. You know, the Iranians, Persians, they've been doing this for about 3,000 years. And so I think that there's a combination of mistakes, errors, and a desire by the administration to constantly get out and say, we've done this, it's the best ever, the most historic anything, without it being true.
Do you believe that one of the points that really gets home to me, at least, as being one of our biggest losses, if it's true, was the demand by Iran that America withdraw all its assets from the Middle East? Do you believe that we're going to do that?
Absolutely not. I do believe that Iran probably demanded that, but I think even this administration would not be willing to do that. It would be such a problem for the Israelis to be left alone, and frankly, for all the Arab states in which the United States has invested so much, and vice versa. So I think that was that was probably a starting anchor position from the Iranian side.
One of the things that both Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump have been saying as one of the things we've achieved is the change in regime, which was, I don't really even get into that. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, we changed the regime and it's probably a little bit worse. I just want to read one paragraph here about the new leader of Iran, which is the son of the old leader that we killed. His name is Mojtaba Khomeini. And just briefly on him, unlike his father or other clerical elites, Mojtaba, 56, has never given a speech or a sermon in public, run for public office, or held a major clerical leadership post. That said, Mojtaba is not a departure from the system, but is its purest product, embodying repression, corruption, and ideological militancy. As supreme leader, he will rely heavily on the IRGC, tightening the bond between the barracks and the pulpit. Ben, I think it's worse. I think what we've done is to actually make the leadership of Iran more repressive and worse for the West and for the Iranian people than what they had before.
So I think one of the things we've all learned, or I have learned in the last few weeks, is that the supreme leader was not really the leader. It was the theocratic face of Iran, but that the real leaders, the real power was in the IRGC. So even though maybe the administration and the Israelis perhaps thought that if you take out the supreme leader and everybody hanging out with him, that then everything else would collapse. And clearly that's not what happened. And there's been some good writing in the last few weeks by people who have studied this, and it said it looks like the Iranians had prepared for that. One day, finally, the great Satan would actually, attack and would do this, would attempt a decapitation strike, and so that they had organized themselves to be able to survive that to some extent. Now, I'm having to read between the lines on this, but that's what it kind of looks like to me. And so maybe we have underestimated the resilience of the IRGC's, whoever's still there, and where the power sits in Iran. But your overall assessment, I would agree with.
It reminds me, in a way, of America misjudging what the reaction of the Iraqis when I was there by totally doing away with the government that was there, the Ba'ath leadership, and just dismissing everybody and thinking we knew what was best for the Iraqi people, and of course we didn't. That turned into a long slog. I know from not just from being in Iran, I wasn't, but we didn't know very much of anything about the Iranian, the Persian culture, and the fact that what you said is correct. The IRGC runs everything, every facet of the Iranian life, of their culture, from the very, very top down to the grocery store on the corners. They're involved in that. We didn't quite get that. So decapitating the upper layers of the leadership, whether it's civilian, the Ayatollahs, the military, the police, really didn't have that much of an effect, at least as we thought it would. And you're right, including the Israelis.
Yeah, I mean, we can go in many different directions. I think it's probably worth asking in a minute that actually, is it a relief that Karg Island and some military adventure wasn't sort of embarked upon? But the question I wanted to ask, I mean, we've talked here about the almost sort of the loss or the tally of loss versus gain, and it all seems to be loss on the US side. Is there another sort of almost unseen or unspoken thing here, which is the degradation of diplomatic credibility? It seems that Trump and his administration are prepared to promise anything to get to the end point.
Well, Jonathan, I think you you pose a very good question. When you don't have a clearly defined end state, or you don't have a set of sort of values that undergird all of your foreign policy, if it's entirely transactional and mercantilist in nature, then you go about making deals and doing whatever to achieve that short-term gain. And it does seem that that's what's going on. And it certainly has not helped that the State Department was gutted from the very beginning by the administration. And that the Secretary of State, Secretary Rubio, who knows better, I mean, a longtime senator and a one-time, strong advocate for NATO and all of that, he has abdicated that for whatever his reasons are. And now he also is dual-hatted as a national security advisor, which is ridiculous. I mean, both of these are full-time jobs. And so we don't have the professional diplomatic corps that we traditionally have had. And instead, the president chooses to rely on his business partner, Mr. Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Mr. Kushner, to handle whether it's Ukraine, Iran, and Gaza. I mean, every other thing that's out there. So if that's how you're doing it, everything looks like a Manhattan townhouse negotiation.
These are Trumpian deals, though, where if you think you can get away with not paying your supplier, you will do so. So it seems to me they'll promise all sorts of things, but may have no intention of actually paying.
I agree. Ben, what is, in your opinion, what's Russia getting out of this?
Well, certainly Russia is probably enjoying and reveling in the fact that there is zero pressure from the United States on them to do anything. I mean, sanctions have been relieved somehow. You mentioned the spike in oil prices. there no zero repercussions for the intelligence and aid that they're giving to Iran, which is targeting Americans, troops, and our partners in the region. Zero consequences for them for that. And then you've got the Vice President of the United States in Budapest echoing Kremlin talking points on behalf of Orban. So I would say Russia's having a pretty good week. At the same time, as bad as the language of the White House is towards NATO, and as really, I can't think of the right word, but unimpressive performance by the Secretary General, I'm not prepared to predict the destruction of NATO. I mean, this alliance has been through so much since 1949. It's been through some very, very challenging times, and whether we're talking about the Suez crisis or the French pulling out or the Greeks and the Turks fighting each other, at the end of the day, we would kind of weather through it. And I think that if nations are taking a long-term view of their relationship with the United States and of the importance of the alliance, with or without the current administration, I think most will agree we are much better off with a NATO that is not operating at full capacity, i.e., without a strong, positive American leadership or a strong British military capability and other deficits. The Russians are waiting to see, okay, if the U.S. does this, does everybody else begin to slink away also? And I think most nations, particularly those who live closest to Russia, who know Russia the best, understand what's at stake. And so I'm not a doomer on NATO yet.
Isn't that the dangerous inflection point, though? Whereas peel the US away temporarily, then he's got a small window to do whatever he wants to do, to attack or fragment the alliance or commit some kind of hybrid assault. He may see this as a finite window of opportunity. China may also see the same.
Certainly that's a possibility, but I think that the Russians are in such bad shape themselves right now. I mean, I love the irony of President Zelensky, who 14 months ago was getting yelled at in the Oval Office by President Trump and Vice President Zelensky, saying, "You got no cards." And now Zelensky comes to the Middle East, and he's helping the Arabs protect themselves from Iranian drone strikes. And it's probably going to turn into a massive economic benefit that will surpass whatever EU money that that Orban has been blocking. The Arabs will end up paying that much to help to Ukraine, investing in Ukraine defense industry, and the Russians, I think, are on the back foot and getting worse. So I should never say the Russians will never use the opportunity that you highlight. I just think it seems very unlikely, especially if European countries invest in Ukraine's ability to launch long-range precision strike against Russia's oil and gas. That's the best way to defend Europe, is make sure that Ukraine wins. China, I just don't think that that they are, number one, prepared. I mean, to make a move on Taiwan, this is a significant military operation. I think they would much rather find another way to do it than having to actually get out there. And the U.S. and probably other allies would have to respond to that.
What about a blockade?
I also would agree that this administration would not be willing to go to war over Taiwan, but I think it kind of depends on other factors. I mean, you know, and is China prepared to suffer the economic consequences? I think China has a lot of vulnerabilities once you get away from China. I mean, they need oil, and they're totally dependent elsewhere for their energy, and their economy depends on exports. And so I think President Xi sees his vulnerabilities So obviously I could be wrong, but I don't see it being likely that they would seize this window.
And if Ukraine was losing badly, they may be tempted to be bolder, both Russia and China. But it seems we've reached an inflection point here as well, where Russia is incrementally losing ground. They have seemed to have been losing more troops than they're able to recruit. We have the internet shut off in Moscow. We have lots of weird stuff going on. I mean, there is systemic weakness there. And Ukraine, despite many issues it also has in recruitment, is dramatically increasing the number of drones on the front and the effectiveness. Do you see that we've hit a real turning point in some respects?
Yeah, it was several months ago when the new defense minister in Ukraine said that their goal was to create 50,000 Russian casualties a month. And I thought, what? I mean, wow. And now they're on the way to reaching that. I mean, they're at 35,000 something now. And I can see this is more than just saying we're going to adopt an attrition strategy. I mean, there's a math to it. And the Ukrainians have always known Russia much better than any of us would ever know the Russians. And I think that the Russians also, certainly some people in Russia must be able to see how this is turning against them. So to call it an inflection point is probably right. It's hard to imagine it swinging back the other way.
Well, you've got a lot of Russian bloggers, really pro-Kremlin types on social media that are giving a lot of compliments to the Ukrainians for the first time. They've done it in the past, but the Russian bloggers that have the influencers in Russia on social media, they're giving it to the Ukrainians and saying, look, they're the innovators. They're the brave ones. We're the cowards. We're losing. We suck. Ukraine's really, really shattered the illusion of the Russians about the Russian army and the Russian government.
They may not have any tanks available for the parade anyway.
That's true. Well, fake ones, yes, but some Potemkin tanks. But you're right. But no, I really mean that. If they cancel that parade, that's a big psychological hit to the Russians. I ask you this off air. I haven't read anything about the meeting between the NATO Secretary Mark Rutte and Donald Trump, and I really expected some kind of a statement from either the White House or NATO Brussels or something, and I've read nothing. How do you interpret that, if at all?
Well, unlike in the past, there was no cozy sort of moment between the Secretary General and the President where they shook hands and laughed and, that kind of thing. And there was no press availability. The Secretary General entered and left the White House without any sort of engagement. So that could be a signal. And I believe that the President slammed the alliance on a Truth Social right after the meeting was over. So, what the good news is that Senator Rubio helped lead to get legislation in place when he was still Senator Rubio to make it that no president could just arbitrarily walk away from NATO. Now, of course, what the president can do is what every president could do, could direct where do we have our troops, what do we have over there in Europe. So I could imagine something like that happening, but I just hope that the military leadership will make it clear to the president and the Secretary of Defense that, look, just because you're pissed off at Spain, we really need Marone and the other base that we have a naval
Rhoda.
base.
Yeah. Rhoda, naval base.
Rhoda and Marone are two really important places for the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force. Same is true for the bases we have in Italy or Greece and Turkey and Germany and so on. And so I imagine that there'll probably be some things like that to show that he's taken action. But the fact is, most of them don't really understand how the alliance works, why it's to our benefit. Now, it is still a fair criticism. It's unbelievable to me that armed forces of UK are as small as they are. And the president is correct that, European nations depend on so much that comes out of the Persian Gulf. So I think a more proactive stance by Europeans saying, hey, Mr. President, we got this one. We will use all of our combined economic and diplomatic pressure on Iran to make sure, that international water remains international water and freedom of navigation is assured. It won't be a U.S. Navy or a Royal Navy ship that opens the strait. It's going to be the government in Tehran recognizing that they are better off opening that strait, and that will come from economic and diplomatic pressure.
And charging a toll, which is something we didn't have to do before. We may now have the humiliation of paying Iran to use sections which essentially isn't their territorial water. I'm going to ask a very political question here. This is my last question because I know we're running out of time. Mark Rutte seems to have one tool for dealing with Donald Trump, and it's appeasement and sycophancy, and rather unctuous sycophancy at that. Is this really dangerous? Because if he's not prepared to talk power or talk truth to power, if he's not prepared to put the European case, then unfortunately he'll carry on propping up essentially a zombie alliance or agreeing to things that in the end we should walk away from.
Yeah, I think European allies and Canada have a lot more power agency than he conveys. And now it's easy for me to say this, but if you add together the economic power, the military, the industrial capacity of all the countries of Europe, plus Canada, and of course, including UK, it dwarfs Russia. And so Secretary General said, all right, well, Mr. President, you'll always be welcome. You're still a member, whatever. You're not required to have 80,000 troops in Europe. But please know, when you start reducing America's presence on the ground and at sea in the European theater, it puts American strategic interests at risk. But the rest of NATO, will still be able to defend ourselves. It'll just be a whole lot harder, but it's on us. And so this is what I'm starting to hear from people like the German Bundeskanzler Merz, the French president, the Italians, and obviously everybody up in the north and in the Baltic states. They're like, with or without the U.S., we live next to these Russians, and we've got to be able to defend ourselves. Finland has more artillery than anybody else in Europe, and they have a wonderful system for rapid mobilization. So I think that Secretary General Rutte, he didn't ask my advice, and understandably, but I think his approach has worn out. I mean, certainly there cannot be any serious person that thinks flattering President Trump will get you anything more than new opportunities to continue flattering.
I would be remiss, though, at this point in our history of not asking you, do you believe that we're at such an inflection point here in the States that senior military leaders are going to have to, not just, well, let me just ask you, refuse illegal orders from the president when they come down, and they're going to come down if they haven't already? Are we there? Are we close? And do you have confidence that they will refuse such orders when given?
Well, there's a reason we constantly reinforce our oath to the Constitution over and over and over at every promotion ceremony, at every reenlistment, so that every member of the military understands that their loyalty is to the Constitution, not to any one person. I am confident that the vast majority of officers would absolutely fulfill their oath. I can't obviously account for every single one of the tens of thousands of senior officers there, but I am very confident. Now, what should be happening, and what I do believe is happening, is that senior leaders are telling the secretary behind closed doors, we're not going to do this. That's an illegal order, whether it's to use military force against Greenland or to bomb civilian targets. These are absolutely illegal, and we're not going to do it. So But Mr. Secretary, and this is what people have always done. I understand what you're trying to achieve. Maybe here's another way we can do it, but we're not going to carry out an illegal order. Now, again, as an old retired person, it's easier for me to say this. It's a little bit harder when you're staring it right in the face. And there's a difference between terrible policy and an illegal order. If it's a terrible policy or a stupid order, but it's not illegal, you do your best to fix it, but you still are bound to do it. So being able to know that difference between stupid order and an illegal order, and you better be right.
Ben, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. Army Europe. I'm sorry that I even had to ask that question, but thank you for your sincere answer to that. And Jonathan, also man on the street there in the UK. We're going to have to wrap it up for now. Thank you both. And Ben, I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Khartia is a Ukrainian corps operating around Kupiansk, which is a critical area of the front. Now, this campaign won't be for everybody. It is a kinetic campaign in that we are crowdsourcing here for funds to buy vampire drones. 15, in fact. 5 of those have already been achieved in this campaign, but we are looking to scale this up to get the full amount of $40,000 US. That's going to Jiggers Paw that are handling this. This is an incredibly important campaign. There are many creators who are taking part in this. My view is that it's not enough at this point just to help Ukraine to survive. It's not enough just to invest in humanitarian causes. Not everyone's going to be comfortable with this, but they have to remove the invaders from their lands. To do that, they need the skills, the munitions, the weaponry to achieve that. This is where these vampire drones come in. So please, this isn't a full polished promo. I'm still working on that, but the campaign launches today. Please do check it out and, of course, help in any way that you can.